front, right.
Because as we know, this is a military mission with the SDA, and so that's you would imagine that everything's been measured twice for tonight, given the importance of the mission. This isn't your run of the mill telecommunication satellite.
Yeah,
it's
going to
be likely
Sorry,
Halo's satellite, right? The two first.
And I might lose connection. I'm about to go on a tram ride in the Blue Mountains, and so it's a question of cell phone connectivity as I go down a mountainside. So I might lose everyone, in which case I'll see everyone on the other side.
Thanks for dropping by. But yeah, I think someone did ask me before about what to expect this evening. And so, as Catse mentioned, launch is a process, it's not an event. And so once the satellite is inserted into orbit, it's going to take the company some time to detumble it and get it in the right spot. And then I would think, and I forget exactly how long it took Block 1, but it's going to take several days, perhaps weeks, to turn on the satellite, run diagnostics, and then at the right time, just to give you an example, if you had solar flares or certain conditions, you wouldn't want to unfold the satellite if there's any probability that perhaps that might impact the unfolding process. And so you would wait until the most optimal time, the batteries are charged and everything's ready to go and diagnostics look good, and then you would unfold the satellite. And then my guess is, it's not as if the company's going to say, hey, we're going to unfold the satellite a day from now. They're actually going to unfold it, make sure everything's successful, and then they'll PR it at some point, probably a day or two after, which is what they did previously. But Catse, I don't know if you had any additional thoughts on that part.
So the first Blue Walker 3 took some 2 months before it was fully deployed, and then Block 1 some 6 weeks. I'm hoping for 4 weeks this time total. I'm going through the stages you mentioned, because now they have a more fully developed ground network looking up, more telemetry stations, more gateways, so they'll be able to step forward in a faster way through those stages, I think, and hope. I remember Abel Avalon, he actually replied to me when Blue Walker 3 was launched that it was thermally stable. I'm gonna check when that was.
We've always defined ourselves by the ability to overcome the impossible. And we count these moments.
The first ever to fly faster than the speed of sound.
These moments when we dared to aim higher, to break barriers, to reach for the stars.
76, you are go.
To make the unknown known. We count these moments as our proudest achievements.
Having fired the imagination of a generation.
But we lost all that.
Pulls into port for the last time.
Or perhaps we've just forgotten that we are still pioneers, that we've barely begun, and that our greatest accomplishments cannot be behind us, because our destiny lies above us.
That allowed for it to be enormously scalable, which would then set up for really the title of my blog post is it set itself up for a monopoly outcome. So that's what gave me the belief that we were lined up for something that could be whatever $1 trillion company. And those are very rare. I've never made one of those myself, but I'm close enough to have a taste for it. So that's when I saw this one line up, I thought I'd hit the cover off the ball on this one and make it count.
I guess, fate that this company fell into my lap. And as I dug into it and learned more and saw the strategic backing, and I guess thought about the technology and how it could transform connectivity by just using unmodified phones. That's what really hooked me. And so initially, though, it was it was a trade. I was invested, and I put together an overview of the investment and just just talking with Abel and hearing his passion and his conviction about the technology and what it could do to lift, to connect the unconnected and lift many out of poverty. I mean, that was the key mission back then. And so, yeah, for me, that was the real hook. And but I think over time, I wouldn't have stayed in this investment or had the conviction if it weren't for the community. And so, as Catse mentioned, Steve Larison, of course, Catse, Kook, Tut, many others who I see down in the audience below. But yeah, if it wasn't for this community and friendship, I wouldn't have had the conviction to stay in it. And I think there's this connection with people who have invested, but also with the company. I have relationships with some of the management teams, and we've gone through ups and downs in terms of me being an investor, being disappointed in them, or being happy with what they've done. Um, but I think just having been there so early, because the company typically at this stage would not be public, but essentially having a venture investment in this company and kind of seeing it through thick and thin.
Announced. I think Anpan and Kook were posting about it regularly. They didn't have like really much of a big position back then. And throughout 2021 kind of followed the story along. And then obviously 2022, the market had a big downturn. It kept following along. Blue Walker 3, the launch was successful. And in early 2023, it's kind of like when I fell in the rabbit hole. Mm, Seeing all the due diligence that was posted by Steve Larison, by Kook, by Anpan, by Catse was very eye-opening. And having traveled a lot all over Africa, Asia, and South America, understanding the importance of connectivity and the dead spots and dead zones all over. And that's kind of part of the thesis for my investment is a lot of people are looking at it one dimensional, just focusing on the US market or Europe. Obviously, those are most commercially lucrative, but at the same time, say like 80% or more of the world really need it just for day-to-day connectivity across different ports. So I've been following along and seeing how the thesis has kind of evolved with the launch of Block One and the continuous validation of the technology and the amount of bears that have continued to bash the stock with our friend Tim Farrar and many others. I think that has kind of like just made my conviction even stronger. And as Ampan said, like this wouldn't have been possible without every single person in the space mob, every single person in the spaces as a whole. It's truly something special.
Wow, that was very powerful, man. Hearing kind of like all your stories combined at the same time is super cool. Now that we're all kind of here together and like reflecting back, it's like back when we were talking about this in 2021, people were just saying this is a PowerPoint. This will never amount to anything. But we knew who was invested. We knew these big companies knew what they were getting behind, and we ultimately trusted the process. And I think that talks a lot about us and kind of like that we spent all this time with all this research and all you guys do. And at the end of the day, it's a hobby that has kind of just piqued our interest. And I was thinking that earlier today. I was sitting there and I was like before this AST and Space Mob, like what was I doing with my spare time? What was I like? I couldn't really think of anything I was super kind of into and would just like read about every day, dialed in, and I think it's something special. So now, next up, I'd love to hear from Catse, kind of what got him kind of into this stock and
Yeah,
company.
for me, it was a finance market professional on Facebook writing about the stock in Swedish. And then later I found Reddit, and that exact write up for Anpanman when he met with the bow. Also the Marshak video. And we all are more interested in different aspects of the company, and I'm not coming from the business model and financial aspects of it. I was more, my curiosity was piqued by the technology aspects of it, and I started researching that. And as the other said, I wouldn't have been here and not as heavily invested unless the team effort, because then I can understand the other aspects better by reading what the other contributors shared. But yeah, phased arrays, that they are a bit like general purpose technology. If you look at their use case down on Earth, they're not just used for communications, but other things, sensing. And I've always had an interest in military technology, and so I see them as a multi-use case, multi-user tool that has other use cases. So we're very interesting to understand the technological aspects of it. Some loopback, I think. I don't know what that is, but so the space domain is accessible by things that don't burn on reentry, like sensing, communications, and computing. And so this brings that aspect to the terrestrial networks. So it's a really interesting time. Yeah, I'll end there.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. It's very exciting. I'm very grateful we're all kind of in this journey together with the Space Mob. I finally believe I do have the audio going. It's weird. Like I was using Google Chrome, and for some reason it just kept cutting out of the spaces. So maybe next time we'll use a different audio to kind of go about that, but should be good now. Like we're gonna be good for the launch. I'm gonna make sure we're all good. So appreciate you guys sticking around on YouTube and like the X video. Right now I'm just kind of showing the launch logo, which is very, very cool. So speaking of launches, we just shipped this new one to Cape Canaveral. It's super exciting. I love the way the PR lined up. It's just beautiful to see that as we make progress and move towards the launch that's happening today, that we have more lined up, and it's gonna keep building from there and going from there. So, in terms of launch, do you guys have any predictions of when the next one will be?
Soon.
I'd say about 30 days after shipment is a usual time.
Yeah, so probably at the earliest would be late January for this next one, but it depends. Like if it's on Falcon 9 or if it's on New Glenn. I'm just throwing this out there, but if it's on New Glenn, it might take a little longer. Just given that it's a new vehicle, and so integrating into that fairing might take a little longer versus of eventually 6 to 8. But yeah, probably late January.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely think that New Glenn kind of getting this implemented and working is kind of their main mission now. Like as you can see on the site, we're one of the first big clients. And when you're building these rocket businesses, you need a lot of business upfront to be able to afford to build these and build these boosters. And things are always going wrong. And I can't even imagine how much money is eaten up in the launch industry, especially when you're using reusable rockets. So having a reliable customer like AST right off the bat is truly just a win-win for both AST and both Blue Origin and Jeff Bezos, because this way we have the ability to be able to launch more frequently if we're their main customer, and also more at a time because their rocket will ultimately be able to hold the most AST Bluebirds. So whenever I do talk to my friends and such, I'm like, once this Blue Origin rocket's going, the path to full connectivity could be here faster than we know it. And it's kind of weird looking back and thinking that, because it seems like we just been like kind of choked up, and it's not even like the company's fault. It's just hard to get these launched up and into space. But once you have a rocket that's shooting 6 to 8 up at once, it's like as these batches roll out, as the factory's making 8 or 6 satellites a month, it's really going to pick up fast. And I honestly think like a year from right now, we might be doing a launch stream using AST SpaceMobile.
Yeah, that would be ideal. That is a possibility. But yeah, once they get production cadence up, then these launches will become pretty regular. I mean, it's going from the company that launched Blue Walker 3 in 2022 to then the 5 Block 1 satellites in 2024 to then being able to launch 45 to 60 satellites in 2026. It's going to be pretty crazy. I mean, if you can't make a launch, if you can't make a launch party down at Cape Canaveral, there's going to be many behind it. As we've joked, some of us, maybe we should just buy a house down there, and since there'll be so many, we'll fly down there and just hang out there. But I think
Oh, hold on.
Hmm?
Are we talking like SpaceMob house?
Yeah, we're just joking.
SpaceMob like Jersey Shore type house where you can like overlook the launch, have a patio back there with a grill. Dreams, right?
Save on hotel rooms, but I think yeah, it'll be interesting because at that point, I think for investors and Wall Street, it's going to be very visible. You're going to have this launch campaign of so many satellites going up, whether it's 3 on Falcon 9 or 6 to 8 on Blue Origin New Glenn. And so I think the relative unknown AST SpaceMobile is going to become very visible through those launches. And so, yeah, awareness is going to spread, and we're going to get initial commercial service. It's going to be intermittent, and then as more and more satellites are added to the constellation, similar to what happened with Starlink direct to cell, where initially it was like very intermittent, but then services improved. They're at 650 satellites. Once we get to 60 satellites, the service is going to be pretty good, and then once you get to 100, the expectation is that at least here in the United States, it should be pretty seamless and pretty fulsome. But I don't know, Catse, do you have anything else to add there?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that because when they get enough satellites up, that they have the opportunity to coverage, but the limiting case is the edge cells. To keep them small, you need to use the entire array. If you narrow the field of view, which you can do when you have a lot of satellites up, you can concentrate on smaller footprint and create much more narrow cells and still keep the cells the same size. That would increase the area spectral efficiency. And I wonder if they do that when they go beyond continuous coverage, and they can choose to create smaller cells. So that's an interesting way to increase the throughput of the constellation. Another way is, of course, launching shells that operate in other cellular bands, MIMO. So we'll see how that develops.
So once if AST does start launching in different bands, kind of as this constellation builds up, like what are some of the like positives to that? Obviously, like for like defense uses, I assume.
Quality of service will increase, and for the cases when higher frequencies works best, which could be free line of sight, not one wall in, for example, then they can take care of all that traffic, and you can use low band for the most difficult cases under foliage and inside the house and stuff like that. And that will be using the right tool for the right job sort of thing that will overall create better throughput and quality of service. But when you launch more shells, this will be a much more dynamic network than the cellular terrestrial network with the towers. Is more static. You have the same line of sight, the same direction to the tower, but the satellites they move, and so when you have several satellites on several frequency bands, it will be better quality, more even quality of service than if it's just one band, because then it will sort of be better, have a variation in the quality of service. It will get much better, and also the higher frequencies that they come not just with wider spectrum band that the satellite can use, they also come with smaller cells, so that they serve fewer users in smaller cells, so they can simply they have great capacity. They have a larger throughput, total throughput. So expect Block 3 Bluebird satellite operating in L and S bands to have some 10,000 cells down on planet Earth, and Block 2 will just have 1/4 of that, 1/4. Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I would add is that Block 2, which is what's being launched this evening, those are going to be focused on low band cellular spectrum, and that is to fill coverage gaps. And so where a terrestrial network exists, an MNO, if they're covering a certain area, the satellite will not beam down a signal to that area because it doesn't want to interfere, and there's already an existing network. And so if you could imagine, you're just painting all the empty spots with the Bluebird satellite to provide service over low band spectrum. But then once the mid-band shell is up, which is Block 3, that's going to be 100% coverage nationwide. And so it actually will overlap with the terrestrial network because it's a different frequency. It's anywhere as low as 1.5 gigahertz to as high as 2.5, 2.6 gigahertz. And so that network is actually going to be 100% coverage. And even in the city, to the extent that a mobile user needs that network, it will be available because it will overlap with the terrestrial network. But more importantly, that constellation can then be used, and this is the midband constellation, for other applications, like, for example, autonomous vehicles, drones, IoT, and that could be, or that will be, in partnership with AT&T and Verizon here in the US. But then AST could also partner with some other companies, to provide service that could be outside of the MNOs. But yeah, that's a key difference, where the Block 2 Bluebirds, they're providing more dead spot coverage, and then the Block 3 will be 100% midband, high capacity data coverage. But then just like you see with Starlink today, which uses midband spectrum, that spectrum is not going to. It can carry a lot of data, but then it cannot travel through. It doesn't have as good propagation characteristics, so it may not go through a wall or roof, or it should be able to go through. Capacity, which Catse talked about, which is MIMO, where you can do carrier aggregation. You can utilize both low band and midband spectrum to increase throughput.
That's all very interesting stuff. I always do like talk to you guys, because getting into the technicals is really fun for someone who mostly just kind of follows them from the company standpoint. And I always learn a lot when I hear from you guys, and I appreciate you guys spreading that info, because for some people that are, especially me, who are invested in the stock, it's like, okay, exactly how does this work with the bands and all that? And without Catse and you guys and Kook like kind of explaining it, I feel like a lot of us would be like just confused. So shout out there. So I had a few more topics I wanted to kind of touch base on. Obviously, like kind of the big thing with, as we launch more and kind of as we see these executive orders coming in with a bunch of spending in the space industry, looking for satellites, doing stuff with all this Golden Dome talk. I think we should kind of get into the Golden Dome a little. I know Catse just posted a tweet the other day that was a banger and really made me think, like, wow, like what AST is doing here has so much capability to get this contract as we get this constellation up. So, Catse, if you want to kind of dive into some of the Golden Dome and the specifics and why AST is good for it, I think a lot of people watching right now will appreciate that, because the MNO side is pretty easy to follow here. We're doing a pretty simple revenue share on the subscribers with them, and we know who needs this service: people who want to feel safe and want to feel connected. That's kind of the easy side, but like once you start looking into what else these satellites are capable of is when it gets really fun and interesting. So I'd love to hear some of your Golden Dome take.
Right. So, and recently the company has alluded to this also. They have, I believe, 8 contracts with the U.S. Department of War, and they have identified 10 different use cases. So that's a lot. And again, what can we do with space? We can do things that aren't tangible. We can sense, we can compute, we can communicate, so collect data, disseminate data, and analyze data. And we do that using something that also is not tangible, natural resource, that's radio frequency spectrum. So it's in that within that broad such spoofing. Then what's unique about AST is a lot of things really, but foremost power aperture. That's a key performance metric of phased array sensors. Nothing is as big and as powerful, and it allows to sense things at longer distance at higher resolutions. They also have advanced beam forming. They can form, shape the beams, their directivity, their power, their shape, and do that dynamically. They have advanced side lobe controls through tapering. So they use different level of power over the phased array. We know all these things from patents that they have published. And this opens up for using the network as a sensor. That they're also connected to common core for the commercial case that's down on planet Earth. It doesn't have to be, it can be in space. And so you can use the arrays in a multi-static mode. You can use them as one can send a signal and others can listen and form a virtual larger array or an ever omnipresent ear, if you like. You can also use them for the active part and then listen to them from surface or terrestrial radars that can go silent and just listen. It allows big existing platforms to go silent and not reveal their position while they still can use their radar arrays to listen if someone else illuminates the targets. We also have this interesting angle from space, not just shooting parallel to their beams parallel to the surface of the Earth, but looking down, which helps for getting another radar cross section for things like stealth aircraft and hypersonics. So, and then AST has this aspect of now ramping up to 6 satellites per month in a continuous flow, which will produce a set of like Starlink is a continuously producing machine that puts these satellites up. And I think the military would be very interested to have such a path to in a rapid way and continuously and over time iterate for improvements, not just do a batch and then have to start all over again. There's a way to iterate faster. And so they have this ability to sense, just the way terrestrial radars do. The way we have space domain awareness now, that's big phased arrays down on Earth looking up. Having a big phased array out in space looking down or looking sideways is not very different. But so this Reagan, he thought he'd build this Star Defense Initiative, or Star Wars, people call it. But the technology wasn't mature back then. Certainly not for space-based radars. It was much too expensive and difficult. But now in this day, now this technology is within reach, and Tournier, the outgoing boss of Space Development Agency, said that the technology is within reach for space-based radar. He said this in, I believe, September. So that's one interesting use case, that sort of sensor that will complement the thermal infrared sensors of other companies to get the sensor fusion to detect objects and to track them. Then there are a lot of other use cases, military use cases, like spoof-proof positioning, navigation, and timing. And you have, of course, communications. That's the big base use case of distributed sensors and weapon radius on the soldiers themselves. And AST has, together with Fairwinds, tested that with the Android Tactical Assault Kit. So it's wide range of military use cases, and AST has the opportunity to deliver some of those without totally reinventing their satellites. And that speaks a lot to the efficiency of the whole of this company that potentially makes it very, very profitable. Well, and there.
Awesome. Wow, you're on top of it for being 2:30 a.m. over there. Love it. Or AST might get it. And also, I have someone that just requested to join here who I think used to live in India or something by ISRO. So I'll have him come up next. But yeah, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on Golden Dome.
Yeah, I mean, as I've shared in spaces before, the company has gone from being somewhat, they've dropped a few hints here and there, but overall pretty cagey about it, versus in more recent investor conferences, Bank of America and UBS, Scott has been a lot more vocal about being involved in Golden Dome. And so, as Catse mentioned before, outside of just Golden Dome, the company now has 9 program, and so is BB7. And so we are. These two satellites are going to demonstrate the capabilities of what the company has to offer, and there's a whole host of things that, as Catse mentioned, would be applicable to Golden Dome. But I would say in regards to actual like nuggets, this company has talked about ramping up capacity potentially beyond 6 satellites a month to up to 10 to 12. And what was mentioned along with that is the potential to make satellites for the government. The other thing is that the company has gone from, I think it was over the summer, like 400,000 square feet of manufacturing to more recently 500,000 square feet. And then in the third quarter, and also at UBS, Scott mentioned that they are now, or actually it was at UBS conference, they're actually looking for additional manufacturing space in Midland, Texas, in order to build more microns. And there will be that facility, once they find it and stand it up, that will be a dedicated facility just for making microns. And so clearly the company has ambitions to build additional satellites beyond what they need for the first 2 shells. And then at the end of the UBS presentation, he did talk about very specifically, and this is Scott Wisniewski. He talked about once the 2 shells are up, which would be the Block 2 and then Block 3 shells, low band, mid band shells. He did talk about potentially, having a third government shell, which again I think goes back to the military use case. But if you think about what the Bluebird satellite is in essence, and then Elon Musk has talked about this quite a bit. Each satellite has the ability to generate 100 kilowatts of power, based off our estimates. If you include the potential of this solar tail that Catse has diligenced or shared his perspectives on, you're looking at anywhere between 100 to 120 kilowatts of power generation. And then you have using the phased array for sensing and communications. That's a very powerful asset to have. And I think when contemplating this whole notion, I know it's kind of overused buzzword, but AI data centers in space, if you think about Golden Dome, you will need some level of AI compute capacity out in space. And so Bluebirds would be a perfect vessel to host that. Because if you think about the idea of Golden Dome, and in a situation where if the U.S. was under attack or allies who are, there's a potential for a European Golden Dome that AST might be involved in, you would want AI computing out in space, because if that constellation Golden Dome relies on solely terrestrial processing, if some missiles get through and you have a number of assets that are destroyed on Earth, for example, data centers, then that renders the constellation basically useless, right? So you'll need some level of computing power out in space, and that computing power should be autonomous in case people down on Earth can't respond, or because of the conflicts, maybe they're incapacitated, or the networks are jammed, or whatever it is, right? And so I think having AST Bluebirds in the way that I've thought about it is they would almost be the quarterback of the Golden Dome system, where you have these large satellites that have a tremendous amount of power, and can do all these different functions, but also host payloads for processing, and intelligence, right? So yeah, I think I know that there was some concerns from people that the initial Golden Dome recipients were out there, and from what we understand, that's just kind of the first round. There's going to be more. And I think, especially for AST with this new form factor, which is the Block 2 satellite, I assume the government's going to want to see 1 or 2 satellites up and running, and basically, a significant amount of this new spacecraft being de-risked, and operating functionally before making any type of commitments. But for all intents and purposes, like, I think the company and all Golden Dome recipients, they all know what phase they're in and whether or not they're well positioned. And I don't think you would see the level of spend and capital raised by the company and discussion around it without them feeling pretty damn confident that they're going to get it. So yeah, I'm very optimistic. I think we'll find out probably in the next month or two, and that's just add that to the hopper of all the different things that are going to be happening, whether launch of BB7, BB8 through 10, BB 11 through 13. We've got FCC approval for US market access coming sometime in probably January, February. We have a number of other MNOs that are probably going to sign definitive agreements soon. And there's some speculation that maybe we'll get another big Middle Eastern one, perhaps sometime in January. And for 2026, it's going to be an outstanding year.
Spot on. And it is pretty crazy to think about, like, this whole ecosystem of ASD with just so much sheer, like, every week I just feel like it's like what's going to happen. And as we move towards the future, and as like the government gets more on board, it's truly insanely exciting. And the AI space centers, and I am glad you brought that up. So like last night before I was falling asleep, I was playing around with I was gonna publish it, but I ran out of time. It was like an ASTS launch bingo card, and on it there was definitely a spot that says Anpan talks AI space centers. So I love it. But
That's good.
I had that. I had like Catse gets into the technicals of Golden Dome. I had Kook saying know what you own, but I don't think he said it. But he'll probably be back at some point. But so what time? I'm good. So AST. So their webcast it's gonna start in about 13 minutes here. So we're just gonna kind of keep talking AST. Once it comes on, I'll pump in that audio, and then like the video will also be on our X, YouTube, and the audio will be here. We can kind of like, I assume they're going to be talking. I think they have a factory tour, like to show some of the production line, and I'm very excited to see that because it's always so cool seeing like the inside of these massive factories and how many like employees they have working on these, and just the sheer size. It's like I can't even imagine the size of the rooms to build these new satellites, right? Like you walk in there, it probably doesn't feel real. I'm not too sure, like on the I assume I'm sure Catse or Anpan know. I assume they manufacture them all in like one giant room. Maybe, I don't know.
That's a good question. I've never visited.
Yeah, like I wonder if it's just a giant warehouse where they kind of build it all together. But like
yeah, they have two spaces, one in Odessa, the main facility, and then they also have Midland. And so they do build different pieces, but I'm not sure where. I think Odessa is where they do the final assembly. But yeah, they're Kook and I were going to go down to Midland for a tour at some point, but it just never came together. But yeah, if Scott's listening, we're ready for the tour. So
yeah, Scott, sign us up. We'll make you some amazing content. Wink, wink.
The Odessa site has several buildings, and so the assembly of subsystems into the control set is in one of the larger buildings. Simply from watching images that ASTS released. But then assembling the subsystems and the smaller subsystems are of course in other buildings. And then there is also at the Odessa site the shake and bake process of thermal vacuum test and vibration test that take place before shipping off to the launch provider. So they don't do that off-site, they do that on-site. Cuts a couple of weeks from the process of shipping it to a third-party test facility. So, but not everything takes place in one big room. Just the final assembly when they put the smaller subsystems into the control set. But then the control set is built in one part and these subsystems in other parts. So
Very awesome, very interesting. So, Anpanman, so what made you like come up with the idea to order 26 bottles of champagne to Abel today? Was that just a random thought?
Well, I've done it once before in my career. There was back in the day, when I guess it was like my second year into my hedge fund career, there was a company that was bought out. It was a company called 3PAR, and it was a subject of a bidding war between Dell and HP. And it started out at like 18. So yeah, I wanted to do something nice. I'd asked the company before, hey, can we send a food truck down there? But I think there was some concerns around security or other things, and so in terms of coordination, it might have been tough. So just on a whim, I guess it was like two or 3 days ago, I just decided to send some champagne down to Midland as a token of thanks for on behalf of all of us, really. So hopefully they get to enjoy it. I'm not sure where management is. I'm assuming that maybe Abel and Scott are one or both of them are either, or someone's representing us in India, and then they're probably at the command center in Maryland, is my guess. But who knows? Who knows where they're? Maybe they are in Maryland. But maybe we'll see. Like I think it'd be really cool in the YouTube live stream if they actually show employees in the various offices. That would be cool, similar to what Blue Origin did. But, yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were about to say it would be awesome if they show after the launch the employees cracking the bottles. It's like, could you imagine? Yeah. Like, hey, that was me.
I think Kook was.
I did that.
Was like, hey, what are you trying to do? Sabotage? Like, if they're going to get drunk, they get the other satellites. Behind it, hopefully they'll appreciate it. But I've been thinking about for next year, if they get to 60 satellites, then maybe I'll send them 60 bottles of champagne. But yeah, it was weird. Like on Reddit. And it's like several $100s a bottle. It's like, okay, I mean, if I send them, originally I was going to send 100 bottles, but I was like, 26 is more. Sending 100 is kind of gaudy, right? But then when I looked at Cristal, it's like, okay, that's a bit over the top. But who knows? If we get to $200 a share, then I'll send them some Cristal.
Just start sending like $1 per every share at the end of the year. Eventually they'll be like, all right, we got to cap this out.
Yeah. I think someone was mentioning maybe send that. Yeah, I think sending a bottle of champagne for every satellite by at the end of the year. I think that's a good metric. But yeah, I mean, I think for people in general, if you want to send gift baskets or things like that, I'm sure the company wouldn't turn them away. They'd probably be happy. And so some people had reached out to me today asking how they could send alcohol, and I used wine.com, but there's other services out there, and I don't, it's up to you. Maybe send a fruit, what is that, edible arrangement or something. I'm sure employees down at Midland or whatever offices, they have an office in Miami too. If you send them a little token of things,
maybe
sure they'd love that.
Maybe send some Dubai chocolate.
Yeah, some Dubai chocolate.
Some Dubai chocolate. They'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
So the AST webcast starts in about 5 minutes, and I did kind of want to touch on. I did like the element you just talked about, how we like talk about the stock all day long, but it is crazy to think that behind this company is like these insanely hardworking men and women that are working overnight, putting these together, like being away from their families, probably working 12-hour shifts, and just to kind of make this mission true. And I'm sure the employees there are very passionate about what they're doing. And it seems to me like the company culture is very strong because they kind of understand what they're doing. They see the ramp up, and hopefully those employees got a lot of good stock options and compensation because what they're doing, they totally deserve that once this thing's up full. And I'm sure they do have those options, especially because Abel has obviously taken advantage of all of his ownership options and just sits on every single share, which is still insane to me. But
yeah, it's funny because over the years, when you've had bears and short sellers complain about the company, it was very easy to respond and say, well, yeah, the founder, he hasn't sold a single share, and that's been true over 5 years since they've been public, and so um, it's hard to refute that. Like even with stock going to 100, I'm not selling a share. So like
yeah, and
yeah.
isn't he sitting on like 78 million or something? Like it hits 100 a share. Like how do you not take a little off? But like he knows, and he's in it for the entire mission. And I feel like it honestly is probably like a thing to himself where he's like, I'm not gonna get my stock like super up and then drop it on people. I know the mission isn't even close to complete yet because we have 6 satellites and we plan on deploying hundreds. So why sell this early on? And it doesn't really make sense when you look at it. But still, like even a little bit just to buy like a nice like house or something is like okay.
I think it's important though to this is not normal. Like I do think people should, like for Abel and other executives, they should be free to sell some of their stock and to enjoy some of it and take care of their families. And so I think Abel like Kook is an extreme example where he's just holding on to every single share. And so, as you mentioned, he has 78 million Class C shares, which is worth about 6.7 billion as of today. And so, what I think, though, what you've seen this year, what has changed is he actually is taking some stock awards. We saw that in the most recent proxy. And so this is the first year where he's actually taking some small amount of stock awards, which I think to him and for the rest of us, it will allow him to eventually sell some of those shares.
That the dedication for the mission is something that, if not assures success, then it promotes success. If you can find something where the market opportunity is and where your talent is and what you want to do, that's a powerful combination, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing too is that Abel, he was successful. He did sell his breakthrough on but what that gave him was a decent level of comfort and then the ability to really but yeah, that's absolutely not.
That just jump scared me so bad. I had like freaking ears up and my lung was up all the way that I started listening to music and I'm like, where's this coming from?
But I think for the yeah, having some amount of personal so that it's not what's really driving, but it's ideologically his mission is to, you know, build a stream of voice. I think that's what really sets this guy apart, because he's just like a man on a mission. He wants to succeed, and money's not really what's driving him. It's his passion for this underlying technology and what the company can accomplish. This is exciting. I see 37 seconds on my side.
This music's awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to hear what the company has to say. I think Scott will be.
If there's people talking and stuff, I'll try to like pump it in the spaces. I'll flip my little microphone to it.
I think it might be good to just leave this space without the audio pumped in, because if we're listening to the audio here locally and then it comes out here, it's going to be weird.
You're going to be hearing it 1,000 times, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so yeah, everyone tune into the AST stream or one of us on X or YouTube, then we'll kind of throw in notes as we go.
Space, bringing connectivity wherever you are, whenever you need it. A reality our great-great-grandparents could never have dreamed of. Some 200 years ago, electricity sparked a revolution. The first telecommunication systems were born, just dots and dashes, tapping a code through a machine. Messages could only travel a few miles, but soon lines stretched farther and crossed oceans. By the late 1800s, we no longer read messages, we heard them. The telephone changed everything. It shrank in size, shifted shape, and by the 1940s, it became a household staple. Then came the mobile revolution. From bricks to flips, from keypads to touchscreens, phones became portable, our pocket-sized companion. An analog first generation upgraded to digital succession, and broadband data paved the way for internet on the go. In the early 2000s, mobile phones became smart. And with 4G and 5G, we don't just talk or write. We see, share, stream, connect instantly. Smartphones transformed how we communicate. But even today, there are cellular dead zones, places where traditional networks can't reach. Remote regions, disasters, emergencies. AST SpaceMobile is changing that by building a network in space that connects directly to the phone in your pocket. No extra hardware, no special apps, just signal wherever, whenever. So join us and witness history in the making. This is the live launch of AST SpaceMobile's next generation Bluebird 6 satellite. A bold step forward, a future unfolding right now.
Thank you for joining AST SpaceMobile's broadcast for the live launch of our first next-generation satellite, Bluebird 6. I'm Emma Yorina, a member of AST SpaceMobile's marketing team, and we have a fantastic program lined up for you today. We're just moments away from Bluebird 6 taking off into low Earth orbit aboard the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO's LVM-3 rocket from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in India. If you're familiar with AST SpaceMobile, welcome back, and thanks for joining. If you're new, allow me to quickly introduce ourselves. We are building something that has never been done before, a space-based cellular broadband network that connects directly to your everyday smartphone. This means 4G and 5G voice, video, data, and streaming from anywhere on Earth. For existing mobile users, that means no more dead zones. And for the billions living without reliable mobile coverage, they will soon have access to the digital economy, unlocking crucial services such as remote education, healthcare, jobs, banking, emergency response, and much more. Next, you'll hear from AST SpaceMobile's president, Scott Wisniewski, about how our incredible team have made this all possible and what this particular milestone means for our mission. You'll also hear from our VP of Production, John Joyce, who will take you on a tour of our main manufacturing facility in Midland, Texas. And you'll hear from some of our strategic partners about how our joint solution will benefit users globally. Afterwards, we'll witness history together as Bluebird 6 joins our constellation and becomes the largest commercial communication satellite ever launched into low Earth orbit. Let's hear from Scott.
In the last 30 years, all of us have acquired a phone. Who knew we could spread out cell towers around the world to support all the connectivity we can? But we'll never be able to get everywhere. There'll always be cracks and dead spots in today's imperfect and evolving networks. This capability is going to fill huge needs, both for the operators and for end users, as we need to stay connected with our friends, our family, for convenience, for emergency, and AST SpaceMobile uniquely can do that. Bluebird 6 is going to be the largest ever communications array deployed commercially in low Earth orbit. Bluebird 6 is 3 times the size of the first 5 Bluebirds that are already in orbit today, which each of them individually was already the largest ever. So this is a really big step for the company. This is a really big step for connectivity globally to be able to tap into the 6 billion phones that are in use today. So there's no changes required to the phone. And to do that, we had to work with today's spectrum. So that is our core strategy, is that we leverage operator spectrum and we can deliver service to the phone in your pocket. And we can do this with our unique technology and our unique partnerships with the operators in a way that's going to help people rise up across the digital divide and ultimately bring further prosperity to people by bringing them into the digital economy.
Thanks, Scott. It's been an incredible journey, and we're still just getting started. Now let's check in with the rocket. Here's a live view of LVM-3 at the launch pad. Our Bluebird 6 satellite is currently nestled into the payload fairing, or nose cone, which is the top section of the rocket. Now let's take a closer look of the LVM-3 rocket with this 3D model. In reality, this rocket stands at 43.5 meters tall and weighs in at a massive 640 tons at liftoff. It's built for heavy-duty missions like today's, capable of placing up to 8,000 kilograms into low Earth orbit, or LEO, where Bluebird 6 is headed. But before Bluebird 6 was placed inside this rocket, we had to build the satellite.
Hi, my name is John Joyce. I'm the Vice President of Production here in Midland, Texas for AST SpaceMobile. I'm responsible for the daily operations of the satellite construction, working in partnership with the engineering and the test teams. All individual component testing and component builds are under my responsibility, and all these wonderful people are here helping AST deliver connectivity for all. This is where the beginning of the Micron happens. Our structures are assembled from components that we bond here in-house. As we love to say, we're 95% vertically integrated. We build everything here in Midland. As we build these microns, we're building the basic building blocks of the phased array that goes into space and allows the communication. The microns are assembled with a number of different stations, starting at the structure, into the antennas, and then finally into the electronics. As you can see here, we have microns stacked up with closures, and as we pan around, you're going to see the amount of inventory we have built with the current satellites. This is the area where the final assembled microns come in for their final testing to ensure that they're generating the appropriate signal for all of our customers. Once they're assembled, we actually functionally check every component of the micron to ensure we have connectivity, communication, and appropriate power systems. They're laid inside of this device and powered, and we're able to check to see that we have a fully functioning micron so that on orbit, we know that we're going to have success. Here's where the microns come to be assembled into the final wingspans. We have a number of microns that go into the satellite, building tiles. Those tiles are then assembled into wingspans. The wingspans are then assembled into the phased array. It's a multi-day process that's about 6 days start to finish till we have a final assembled phased array. So as you can see here, we have a wingspan that's fully deployed. You can see the size and scale, and remembering there are 5 of these attached together when the full unfurling happens. One of the reasons we hang these vertically is we're trying to mimic anti-gravity so that they will be deployed in a manner in which they will see in space. So we use very complex linear guide systems that allow this structure to free flow through deployment. So we close and then open. What you see here is a wingspan fully closed, and then once we deploy, you see it fully open. Here we have the wingspans completely assembled into a full phased array in collapsed position. So that large opening fully collapses down when those wingspans are assembled together into this cube that is loaded into the spacecraft. All of our satellite electronics come together into one flat bench where we assemble, connect, and ensure that all devices are functioning properly. Here's one of the structures that's designed and built in-house here in Midland. We use this to be able to move the satellite from one position to another. You can see the scale and magnitude of the steel that has to come together. This is our environmental testing area where the satellite, the microns, and many other components that go in the vehicle are tested with environmental vibration. This is our large shaker where we actually have the ability to mount the entire vehicle with all components in place. In this device, we're able to simulate the actual launch conditions to ensure our vehicle is capable of withstanding the forces it will see during the 9 minutes getting into orbit. Here we have our thermal vacuum chamber where we do a lot of our environment. Each one is cycled through as we do acceptance testing to test at the levels that they will see in the space-like conditions. Inside of our thermal vacuum chamber, we also bring the fully assembled satellite and expose it through a number of conditions from hot to cold environments that it will see in space. We're really proud of the team here. We're really grateful to be in the city of Midland, and we couldn't think of a better place to be in the USA working and building these satellites.
That was a great behind-the-scenes look at our Midland facility. That's just one of several manufacturing sites we operate across the US and internationally. Altogether, we have nearly 500,000 square feet dedicated to building satellites. And with building huge satellites, we need a lot of space. We're currently ramping up production in order to launch 45 to 60 of our next generation Bluebirds by the end of next year. We've taken an idea that once felt out of reach, cellular broadband from space, and shown time and time again that with a driven team and a clear mission, there's nothing we can't achieve. So what is our mission? What exactly are we trying to accomplish with our Bluebird satellites? At AST SpaceMobile, we believe that in today's digital world, connectivity is a basic human right. That's why we invented satellite direct-to-cell broadband. While cities and urban areas are generally well covered with 4G and emerging 5G networks, satellite connectivity plays a crucial role in complementing that terrestrial infrastructure and extending coverage where and when it's needed most. Let's take a closer look at how our satellites are working to eliminate coverage gaps and connect the unconnected.
Our world runs on cellular broadband. From online banking, healthcare, jobs, and education to streaming your favorite shows and catching up with loved ones, high-speed mobile connectivity has become essential to modern life. Today, there are over 5 billion mobile users globally, moving in and out of coverage as they travel. Still, billions lack access to reliable mobile broadband, with 87% of the planet out of range of traditional cell towers. Every day, the digital divide widens, and billions are left behind, their potential limited just because of where they live or work. AST SpaceMobile is rewriting the rules of connectivity. With the largest phased array antennas in low Earth orbit, our Bluebird satellites function like cell towers in space, delivering high-speed broadband directly to everyday smartphones. Our mission? Eliminate connectivity gaps worldwide and bring broadband to the billions who remain unconnected. In rural communities, students join the same online classes as kids in major cities, while their parents access telehealth consultations from home instead of driving hours to the nearest hospital. Remote workers join companies anywhere in the world, while entrepreneurs and creators reach global audiences. Farmers use real-time data to optimize crops and boost yields. Adventurers and travelers explore mountains and deserts while staying connected, checking weather, navigating safely, and sharing their journey with loved ones back home. When disasters strike and ground networks fail, our satellites keep communication flowing. Emergency teams coordinate rescue efforts while families and friends can stay updated. At sea, fishing crews and cargo ships receive critical weather updates and maintain contact with shore, even thousands of miles from land. In the skies, passengers enjoy seamless connectivity from takeoff to landing without needing to purchase Wi-Fi. And for military operations, satellite networks ensure safe and reliable coordination between remote bases and field operations, despite challenging environments. We believe connectivity is not just a privilege, but a basic human right. And we're working to make this a reality for everyone, everywhere, at all times. We've already made history by conducting the world's first ever voice, video, and 5G calls from space directly to standard smartphones. With our Bluebird satellite network and partnerships with leading mobile operators worldwide, we aren't just connecting devices, we're connecting people. Connection without limits, opportunity without borders.
This wouldn't have been possible on our own. Since the beginning, we've prioritized making key strategic partnerships with companies and organizations that share our mission. So as we expand our constellation over the next couple of years, we'll be able to offer a turnkey service to billions of potential users. Now we have great videos for you, prepared by our partners. Let's watch.
Over the past few years, it's really been fantastic to see AST's vision of broadband direct to the device, a cellular device, go from concept to reality. And with the upcoming launch of Bluebird 6, we really are on the cusp of that commercial operation taking place, not just in the US, but around the world. I see space-based broadband from companies like AST as a great complement to what we already do. American Tower is a leading provider of digital infrastructure and neutral host communications assets in 20 markets across 5 continents. American Tower is also an early and long-term investor in AST SpaceMobile. As a result, I've become a director of AST's board since the transition to a public company in 2021. And when we started this journey with AST SpaceMobile, there were really 4 reasons strategically why we made our initial investment. First and foremost, we believed and had a common vision of connecting the unconnected, of bridging that digital divide. The second part of it was we looked at the types of customers and the types of businesses that AST would need to work with. And fundamentally, with our neutral host platform as a digital infrastructure company and the satellite fundamentally being a neutral host, we were talking to the same and operating with the same customers. Additionally, we looked at it from the business perspective and said we could be a strategic partner in offering up these assets in the form of our distributed real estate around the world to enable AST to quickly go to market with terrestrial gateways. Finally, it really was about the team and about the technology. In order to really get to this point where we have more resilient and more reliable networks, AST had a strategic approach to putting together the right spectrum so they can complement the terrestrial networks. The combination of the operator's thin low-band coverage and that spectrum, combined with MSS LNS bands, which were recently announced by AST, really do enable broadband data performance on existing devices. Terrestrial networks and non-terrestrial networks get more integrated. The big impact for end users will be seamless services and better overall experience. This will be super important as 5G extends its capabilities into autonomous platforms such as drones and autonomous vehicles. At the heart of this, there's a shared vision that AST and American Tower have of expanding coverage and bringing reliable connectivity to these new verticals in the business sector and to people, no matter where they are. Because ultimately, this isn't just about the infrastructure. It's really about people. End users everywhere are really demanding more data, better performance, and more reliability than ever before. And with the partnership of AST and American Tower, we're both working together to build networks that can meet those demands today and into the future.
Hi, Abel and AST team. When was it when I met you guys and heard about this very ambitious concept of connecting the entire Earth with a high-speed, wireless network from your satellite? I couldn't believe it. Really not sure whether this is gonna work or not, but felt your passion to make the network available for anybody, anytime, anywhere.
In Japan, we have many mountains that are out of coverage. And personally, I'm often in such area. So I'm very looking forward to using the service also as a user.
The world is transforming very fast. I think AI is going to be very, very important, not only for the people living in very advanced, rich countries, but for emerging countries as well. For them, the wireless connectivity can be done only through satellite. And you guys are enabling broadband, so this is amazing. And this launch is the huge milestone you guys are achieving.
Now we are one step closer to truly connected world. Wishing you and the team continued success in the missions ahead.
We are very happy, we are very proud, and we are very honored to be part of this ambitious project.
Thanks to all of our partners, and we look forward to many more shared milestones in the future together. AST SpaceMobile technology is not only a game changer for end consumers in all corners of the world. It can also be crucial for governments when they face times of great need, ensuring that those who put their lives on the line for everyone's safety can work faster, more reliably, and more securely. Let's see how in the next clip.
Emergency services, government agencies, and the military often operate in remote regions or challenging landscapes where stakes couldn't be higher. Every day, these dedicated teams put their lives on the line to serve and protect their communities and nations. Yet connectivity is often missing or unreliable when it's needed most. AST SpaceMobile's space-based cellular broadband network can help close that gap. By providing high-speed broadband directly to everyday smartphones from space, our network could advance situational awareness, coordination, and safety at sea, in air, and on the ground. Here's how. For emergency responders, satellite-powered, direct-to-device connectivity could keep teams connected when terrestrial networks are down, helping streamline rescue and relief efforts. For firefighters, real-time data on rapidly changing conditions could offer a clearer, safer path through smoke and flames. At border zones where internet access is limited but security is critical, space-based broadband could support smarter monitoring and better coordination with limited resources. In the open ocean, high-speed connectivity could enable real-time coordination between vessels, enhance maritime domain awareness, and support enforcement of fishing, customs, and environmental regulations. In the air, satellite connectivity could enable in-flight coordination with command centers and help reroute flights around high-risk zones. For military personnel at remote outposts, satellite connectivity could strengthen operational readiness and accelerate data transfers while keeping them connected to loved ones back home. We are already working with government agencies around the world. Earlier this year, AST SpaceMobile was awarded a $43 million contract from the U.S. Space Development Agency to provide space-based connectivity for specialized government applications supporting critical national security objectives. We also partnered with Singapore's Defense Science and Technology Agency to explore how our network can support humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, and emergency response when terrestrial networks are compromised. These partnerships reflect what direct-to-smartphone satellite broadband can offer: secure and reliable communications, especially when it's needed most. We've proven the technology works, and now we're working with partners around the world to connect communities and the teams who safeguard them.
We're just moments away from the liftoff of AST SpaceMobile's Bluebird 6 satellite aboard ISRO's LVM-3 rocket. And if you're watching and wondering what exactly is about to unfold, let me break it down for you. Here we have once again our 3D model of LVM-3, ISRO's most powerful rocket, standing about 43.5 meters tall and weighing in at a massive 640 tons at liftoff. Let's walk through what's going to happen when the countdown hits 0. Liftoff begins with the ignition of the two S-200 solid rocket boosters, each carrying 205 tons of solid propellant. This propellant is based on HTPB, a synthetic rubber-like material that becomes an incredibly powerful fuel once it's mixed and cured. These massive boosters provide the initial thrust needed to get the rocket off the pad and through the lower atmosphere. About 2 minutes into flight, while the boosters are still firing, the L-110 liquid core stage ignites. It holds 115 tons of liquid propellant and uses twin engines to keep the rocket climbing smoothly. Just after that, the empty boosters will separate. As the vehicle climbs past 71 miles, the nose cone, or payload fairing, which is the protective shell around the satellite, is released. This marks the moment the vehicle is officially in space. At around 5 minutes into flight, the core stage burns out and separates. That's when the third and final upper stage, called C-25, takes over. It's powered by a cryogenic engine burning 28 tons of supercooled liquid hydrogen and oxygen, and it carries the satellite the rest of the way to orbit. Once the upper stage with the nose cone reaches an altitude of about 323 miles, the satellite will be released into orbit. In satellite communications, positioning is everything. Our Bluebird satellites operate in low Earth orbit, or LEO, a region roughly 100 to 1,200 miles above the Earth. There's also medium Earth orbit, or MEO, which orbit at about 12,000 miles, and geostationary orbit, or GEO, way out at about 22,000 miles. We place our satellites in LEO because their proximity to Earth makes the signal much stronger. It reduces latency, or signal delay, and allows us to connect directly to everyday mobile devices. Communication satellites in LEO often work as part of a constellation, a network of satellites working together to provide seamless, continuous coverage across the planet. Medium Earth orbit, being a bit higher up, is commonly used for navigation systems like GPS. That's because MEO offers a balance between coverage area and signal strength, and the orbits allow satellites to constantly move across the sky in predictable patterns, ideal for global positioning. Geostationary, on the other hand, is much farther out. Satellites here orbit in sync with the Earth's rotation, so they appear fixed over one spot on the surface. That makes GEO ideal for things like weather monitoring, TV broadcasting, and other services that benefit from a constant view of the same area. Now back to our satellite. Once it's released in LEO, our engineers will take control over the satellite, and it will undergo a series of tests to ensure it's stable enough for unfolding later on. When unfolded, Bluebird 6 satellite becomes a 2,400 square foot cell tower designed to deliver 4G and 5G broadband connectivity directly to everyday smartphones worldwide. Now let's zoom out. The entire satellite would be as tall as 9 of me. The Hubble telescope is 43.5 feet long, making it just short of our 49-foot tall satellite. Or half an NBA basketball court, or it could fit 1,600 pizza boxes. All right, that was fun, but now it's almost time for takeoff. We will now hand it over to the live footage provided by ISRO. From the moment the rocket leaves the launch pad, it takes about 15 minutes until Bluebird 6 is released into low Earth orbit. Let's watch.
सभी दर्शकों का यहाँ उत्साह, ये देखिए हाथ ऊपर करके उत्साह बढ़ाते हुए।
T-3 minutes.
ऑटोमेटिक लॉन्च सीक्वेंस जारी है। इस दौरान S200 बूस्टर्स और L110 सभी चरणों के फायरिंग लाइन को तैयार कर दिया गया है। अंतिम संचार जांच जारी है।
We are 2.5 minutes. Rocket like LVM-3 ignites. A condition of overpressure is generated. Thrusting of solid rocket motors. Thrusting of solid rocket motors creates enormous acoustic levels which have a potential to affect the electronic components in the launch vehicle and satellite. To mitigate the acoustic levels, the acoustic suppression system floods the launch pad with large amount of water through nozzles so that a denser medium of water prevails around the rocket for the acoustics to travel through.
2 minutes.
यह प्रमोशन मिशन दक्षिणी पूर्वी दिशा का मिशन है, इसलिए इसमें निरंतर नजर बनाए रखने के लिए भारत स्थित शार और पोर्ट ब्लेयर में स्थित रडार स्टेशन इसमें पूर्ण निगरानी बना के रखेंगे और इससे आगे निकलते हुए इंडोनेशिया, ऑस्ट्रेलिया स्थित यत्रगा ग्राउंड स्टेशन की मदद से ट्रैकिंग की जाएगी।
The downrange tracking stations of Port Blair, Bogor and Yataraga will be participating for tracking the rocket apart from the Shar tracking station closer to the liftoff.
अब हम उड़ान से 1 मिनट की दूरी पर हैं।
Stand by for the timer. T-1 minute.
दर्शकों की जानकारी के लिए बता दें, T-8 सेकेंड्स पर क्रायो स्टेज यान से अलग होंगे और T0 पर S200 बूस्टर्स प्रथम चरण का प्रज्वलन शुरू होगा।
We are 40 seconds away from T0. The viewers may watch out for the swing out of the cryo arms and the acoustic suppression system starts its operation.
Programs activated. Minus 25 seconds. Minus 20 seconds. Ignition arms down. Minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Both S200 motors ignited.
LVM-3M6 Bluebird Block 2 mission, a majestic liftoff. The rocket is beautifully searing through the bright Sriharikota sky.
And we have liftoff.
Plus 20 seconds.
LVM-3M6 रॉकेट का सफलतापूर्ण उत्थापन द्वितीय प्रमोशन मंच से और अपनी उद्दिष्ट कक्षा की ओर बढ़ चला है। LVM-3M6 रॉकेट दोनों ठोस नोदक वाले S200 बूस्टर्स प्रज्वलित हैं। प्रथम चरण का कार्यकाल लगभग 126 सेकंड का होगा और इस दौरान यह लगभग 6000 किलो न्यूटन प्रणोद उत्पन्न कर रहे हैं।
Very thrilling vibration at the launch base due to the thrusting of twin S200 motors.
Plus 1 minute.
बहुत ही साफ नजारा देखने को मिल रहा है। यहाँ उपस्थित लोगों को बहुत ही रोमांच का अनुभव हो रहा होगा। बहुत दूर तक हम इस यान को देख पा रहे हैं और मुमकिन है कि प्रथम चरण का प्रतिकन भी देख सकेंगे।
Each S200 motors generates 5,952 kilonewtons. Burn duration for present mission is 132.5 seconds.
यान अपनी उद्दिष्ट दिशा का निर्धारण करते हुए अपने मिशन को पूरा करने के लिए अग्रसर है.
We are 111 seconds into the flight.
यहाँ इसकी पुष्टि हो चुकी है. द्वितीय चरण का प्रज्वलन शुरू हो चुका है, जो कि L110 चरण है. इसका प्रज्वलन शुरू हो चुका है. अब दोनों स्ट्रैप ऑन बूस्टर्स और L110 चरण एक साथ प्रज्वलित हैं.
The L110 stage and the two S200 boosters.
Both S200 motors separated.
Just now we have had a confirmation of the separation of the two S200 boosters.
रेंज ऑपरेशन निदेशक द्वारा इसकी पुष्टि की गई. दोनों S200 बूस्टर को यान से पृथक कर दिया गया है. इसमें लगे जेटिसनिंग मोटर की मदद से उसे यान से सफलतापूर्वक और सुरक्षापूर्वक पृथक कर दिया जाता है.
We are 160 seconds into the flight. Current altitude 104 kilometers.
वर्तमान में L110 यानी द्वितीय चरण प्रज्वलित है.
Payload fairing separated. Plus 3 minutes. Closed loop guidance initiated.
यान से ऊष्मा कवच को पृथक कर दिया गया है. अब यान 123 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई पर प्राप्त कर चुका है और वर्तमान में यान क्लोज लूप गाइडेंस के अंतर्गत स्वतः दिशा निर्धारण कर रहा है.
The closed loop guidance has been initiated for LVM-3 launch vehicle. Hereafter, the rocket will use real-time data from onboard sensors to continuously correct its flight path. The payload fairing has been already jettisoned as the rocket has cleared the dense atmosphere.
तरल नोदक पर आधारित यह चरण दो उच्च प्रणोद वाले विकास इंजन की मदद से कुल 1600 किलो न्यूटन का प्रणोद उत्पन्न करते हैं. इंजन की अधिकतम प्रभावी क्षमता प्राप्त करने के लिए ईंधन और ऑक्सीडाइजर का खास अनुपात मिलाकर यह प्राप्त किया जाता है. इस चरण का प्रज्वलन का लगभग 200 सेकंड का होगा. इस चरण में यान में लगे एक्सेलेरोमीटर और जायरोस की मदद से इंजन जिम्बल किया जाता है और यह क्लोज लूप गाइडेंस के अंतर्गत अपनी दिशा निर्धारण करता है.
First stage performance normal.
The second stage L110 is continuing its operation. The two Vikas engines together generating 1600 kilonewton thrust. The tracking station at Shah Sriharikota continues to track.
There's a red dot there, which is when maybe the next stage ignites.
जी हाँ, यान पूर्णतः सामान्य निष्पादन करता हुआ अपेक्षित पथ का अनुकरण करता हुआ उद्दिष्ट मिशन की ओर बढ़ रहा है.
Stage authorization issued.
So exciting.
तृतीय चरण यानी क्रायो स्टेज चरण को अनुमोदित कर दिया गया है.
Shah and Port Bay ground stations continue to acquire data.
L110 stays separated. Cryo stage ignition command. Cryo stage ignition confirmed.
यहाँ सभी वैज्ञानिकों के लिए ये एक हर्ष का पल होता है.
I love those like old
निदेशक
school
द्वारा
looking
भी इसकी
scans
पुष्टि
they
की
use.
गई. द्वितीय चरण को सफलतापूर्वक बनकर यान से पृथक कर दिया गया है तथा अंतिम चरण तृतीय चरण प्रज्वलन शुरू हो चुका है.
Now the third stage of LVM-3 rocket, the cryogenic stage, has commenced its operation.
Cryo stage performance normal.
This is inevitability.
It is thrusting nominally
Commercial service 2026.
with 28.6 tons of cumulative propellant loading of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The engine develops 200
58 more
kilonewtons
satellites
thrust.
will go up this year, hopefully.
Yeah, right. This is just the start. This is the start of something special right here. And
LVM-3
it is crazy to think that
जो कि
like when the
क्रायोजेनिक अपर स्टेज
last
कहलाता है,
launch was to this now.
क्योंकि इसमें क्रायो ईंधन लिक्विड हाइड्रोजन तथा लिक्विड
And
ऑक्सीजन का प्रयोग
well,
होता
this is
है.
going to kick off. Ooh,
यह इंजन
I hope the
एयर
shorts are
थ्रस्टर की
ready.
मदद से लगभग 200 किलोन्यूटन का
So
सामान्य प्रणोद उत्पन्न
reason
करता
people are
है।
looking relieved
चरण
is
का
that
कार्यकाल
most risky parts are done.
648 सेकंड का
The
होगा।
third and last
इस चरण
stage
का
has
व्यास 4
ignited
मीटर तथा ऊंचाई 13.5 मीटर
successfully,
की
and
होती
it's
है।
confirmed. And we'll have to wait some 10 minutes before Bluebird Block 2 will separate from the upper third and last stage.
Very, very cool. The way it separates is super. So I assume that's controlled with a launch or with a control switch somewhere.
No, it's probably automated. You guys can see in the diagram there, we've got quite a this is what a way to kick this off. And what I would add is that this is like a historic event in India. This is groundbreaking for ISRO and the program, the space program there. I mean, this is a huge branding event for them that they're taking up such an important, inexpensive, and monumental payload. This is a huge accomplishment for their country. And I think, as we've probably seen in some of the media recently, it's been all over the press that ISRO is taking up this American groundbreaking, satellite. It's a big source of pride. And as I tweeted earlier today, you've got 1.5 billion people who are going to be reading this in the news and see it on TV. And of course, we recently partnered with Vodafone Idea, which is VI in India. That's the MNO that we'll be working with. And so you can bet that this is going to be splashed everywhere, that this is the first step of putting together a constellation to launch commercial service in India, which if you can imagine the coverage gaps that we have here in India, there's quite a bit of areas where there is no internet connectivity, broadband or fixed wireless or mobile for that matter. And so this is going to be huge.
Yeah, I saw that today. When I watched like the Indian news coverage, I was actually pretty shocked at like how much of like a historic kind of thing they're looking this at, and honestly, it's something for them and ISRO to be super proud of. You just launched like the biggest low Earth orbit satellite ever, and kind of kicked off what's going to be a legendary change for this company, and where it goes from here, and the fact that one already shipped off just shows you that the team's not playing around now. They have these satellites figured out. They're making 6 a month, and now it's time to send them up. Do you guys think that we would use them as launch partners again? Because it seems like everything's going well, and if everything is like already integrated, and if we're making that many a month, why not just ship one off there?
Sorry, I'm just listening to the announcer.
Satellite
She's
ever
talking about
deployed
AST.
in low Earth orbit.
Plus 11 minutes.
Let's see.
The launch window for this launch is razor thin. The target orbit requires exact phasing and there's a need to ensure global coverage. One of the important
This
global
launch party looks
orbital
fun. Look at all the
parameters is the right
school trips
extension
out
of
there.
ascending node, or RAN. It is the angle measured eastward from the vernal equinox to the point where a satellite crosses the equator going north. It defines the orientation of the orbital plane in space. Two satellites with the same inclination and attitude but different RAN are in different orbital planes.
There's an AST employee there.
By combining RAN spacing, or the
Let's
plane
go.
distribution, and phasing by way of
That
satellite
guy's like, yep.
spacing, constellations achieve near global coverage. To insert satellites into specific RAN slots, launches must occur at precise times when the launch site aligns with the desired orbital plane. This mission is being undertaken as a part of commercial agreement between NSIL and AST
There it
and
goes.
Science LLC,
It's so
a
amazing.
US-based
The pure
company.
like way to track all this. It's so fascinating.
तृतीय और अंतिम चरण का प्रज्वलन जारी है। LVM-3 M6 अपने मिशन की ओर अग्रसर। LVM-3 प्रमोचक यान अपने यानों की श्रेणी में 5वीं पीढ़ी का प्रमोचक यान है, जिसकी क्षमता 10,000 किलोग्राम वाले उपग्रह को निम्न भूकक्षा में ले जाने की है। LVM-3 के पिछले मिशनों में भारत का गौरव बढ़ाने वाले चंद्रयान-2, चंद्रयान-3, संचार उपग्रह CMS-03 और वाणिज्यिक मिशन में OneWeb India 1, OneWeb India 2 मिशन का सफलतापूर्वक हमने देखा। यह इस प्रमोचन यान की 6वीं प्रचालनरत उड़ान है और तीसरी वाणिज्यिक उड़ान है। अब तक पूर्ण विश्वसनीयता के साथ सभी मिशन को पूरा करने LVM-3 रॉकेट इस बार भी सज्ज है LVM-3 M6 ब्लूबर्ड ब्लॉक 2 मिशन को पूरा करने के लिए। अब हम उड़ान से 815 सेकंड की दूरी पर आ चुके हैं। वर्तमान में यान की ऊंचाई 526 किलोमीटर,
Right, they've got to get to 17,000 miles per hour, right?
0.17 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड है।
High enough velocity.
Right.
Higher speed, the closer they get to Earth. Or they'll drop. So
We are 14
just a couple of minutes
past
left,
the
and then
launch
there will
time.
be
The
payload
cryogenic
separation.
stage presently thrusting.
Its upper stage is made in India.
The trajectory of the rocket
Pride of the Indian nation.
precisely following the prediction.
Earlier upper stage engines, cryogenic, they used in the GSLV Mark II had problems. They were made in Russia, so they developed their own, and they got it right because it has worked every time they've used it.
उद्दिष्ट पथ की ओर जा रहा है और कुछ ही
So,
क्षणों में हम
looking
देखेंगे
very good so
कि
far.
तृतीय चरण को कक्षा की
Love to hear
स्थितियां
it.
प्राप्त होने पर
This
बंद
this
कर
in the
दिया
chat,
जाएगा
Gregory said,
और
"I see clapping equals
तत्पश्चात
bullish."
हमारे ब्लूबर्ड ब्लॉक 2
Yeah, there is a speaker. Every time he says performance nominal, people
The
clap,
relative
which
velocity
means
of
everything's going according to plan.
7.07 kilometers per second has been acquired so far.
Love it.
Cryo stage performance normal.
The cryo stage is expected to perform till
Cryo stage shut off.
And here we have a confirmation of the
Satellite
shut off
injection conditions achieved.
the shut off of cryo stage, and
Oh, here we
eager
go.
awaiting for the satellite
Ooh,
deployment.
here we go.
M3 M6 Bluebird Block 2
Send
mission
it.
successfully accomplished. Handing over to mission direct.
अभी रेंज निदेशक को
There we go.
आवाज
Block 2
Separation.
is successfully injected into the specified orbit. LVM-3 M6 mission is successfully
Holy
accomplished.
Beautiful.
ये सभी के लिए हर्ष और उत्साह
That's
का
so
पल
cool.
यहाँ पर, जिसमें इस मिशन में ब्लूबर्ड ब्लॉक 2 उपग्रह को सफलतापूर्वक उद्दिष्ट कक्षा में स्थापित कर दिया गया है।
We have had
So
footage
after
ownership of
separation,
LVM-3 and
is
Bluebird
is
Block
that
2
good? It's in
mission.
orbit, ready to go, ready to unfurl once
Congratulations
they
to the
deem
team
conditions?
Ansel and the customers
It's going to take some time. They're going to,
to stay connected for
yeah,
the
they'll
address
have to get it
by
orientated
GTOS,
properly.
Chairman Isro
I mean,
Dr.
Catse
V.
can tell you,
Narayanan,
and then
senior executives.
run system checks.
Please sign off from the
It can be
commentary
days,
box.
weeks
Namaskar.
before they
जी, हम
get
आपसे आगे लेते
to a
हैं
point where they're comfortable to
सभी
unfold the satellite.
सभी दर्शकों
We
Yeah,
have just
I remember last
witnessed
time
the launch of our Bluebird 6 satellite.
yeah,
What an
when they want
incredible
like
moment.
all the conditions
Things
up in
are moving
space gotta
fast
kind
for
of
AST
line up.
SpaceMobile, so be
Just
sure
completely
to follow us
understandable.
on social media for all updates.
Yeah,
and
you
to
don't
see
want to
how
take any
Bluebird
risks.
6 integrates
But
in our
that-
constellation.
Man, that's beautiful.
Thanks again for
Praise.
joining
they're
us.
back
We
to the live
hope
stream.
to see you at the next launch.
Let's see what they're saying.
We have had a successful mission. Congratulations to Team ISRO, Team N.
Constellation. Thanks again for joining us. We hope to see you at the next launch.
Like I said earlier today, and it's just amazing to see. And I just wanted to say I appreciate everything, and you guys are awesome. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it a lot, man.
Like I said earlier today, and it's just amazing to see. And
So with so moving forward, oh hey Jacob, what's going on, man? You feel free to come up and talk.
Oh, what's up, man? What's up, guys?
Hey, how's it
Congrats,
going?
dude. That launch was beautiful.
Yeah,
It
right?
worked out great.
Beautiful.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome. I had just come up to say earlier that that Alex guy that I met at the airport that was crazy yesterday or on Sunday or yeah on Monday flying. He worked just happened to be passing through. Yeah. Yeah, it just happened to be like where I just saw a guy in the AST SpaceMobile store, and I was like, "Oh, hey, look!" And I was like, I pointed at my hat, and he kind of looked at me funny, and he ended up being a worker there. Yeah, it was
Oh, that's
great.
cool.
Yeah, I picked up his. Yeah, I picked up his tab and said it was from SpaceMobile and everything too. I was thanks for that idea, Anpanman. Yeah, I just came up to say that was awesome, great launch, and fuck, socks ripping overnight. So congrats, guys. I'm happy.
That's awesome to hear. Hell yeah, that is. I am yet to see anyone like kind of out in the public in any space mobile stuff. I wear it all the time, and the people at work are always like, "What are you wearing?" Then I give them the whole rundown, and they're like, "That's not gonna work."
Oh yeah, I wear it. So I mean, I've been in Rock Lab longer, so I have more gear from them. But I wear it all the time, especially when I travel and stuff too. I've run into people in the like that are like work in the industry, like that. I have random conversations about people that are working on like bespoke private companies, stuff like that. It's a great conversation starter to wear your gear, especially like going forward. Like people are going to know when they see that what that is. It's a fun like way of getting that conversation started with people because you never know. Like somebody that sees it could be like completely and that like could have some information, not information, but it's a fun way to get the conversation started with people. So yeah, rep it whenever you travel and stuff like that. It's cool.
Right, gotta rep it, and it's fun getting people interested because space investing. Like my dad's a bit older. When I explain this to him, he's like, "How do you even know about this?" So it's very fun. So one thing I did want to touch on because I come from like a pretty strong marketing background is Anpanman was DMing me about it. It's like the production quality now. So Anpan, what do you think of those videos?
They were really good. I mean, we've come a long way since Blue Walker 3. So I remember Blue Walker 3, they were having technical issues because they did a lot of interviews live, whereas here they, all this was pre-recorded. But yeah, it was
Kind of like
very
me starting to
polished.
stream today.
Was that?
Kind of like me starting the stream today.
Yeah.
That was my Blue Walker 3. The next one's gonna be fire.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it still worked out.
Yeah. But I think I mean, clearly the company has matured, right? Like we're at a different stage. We're not this tiny startup company anymore. We're big and we're about to launch commercial service, which is super exciting. So yeah, huge difference.
Yeah, that's the thing is like the team they probably felt that they had the need to kind of get that content out there. So when people are looking at
And people ask, well, what's next? And it's good. I'm glad you asked that because we've got Bluebird 7 on its way to Cape Canaveral, lined up for launch. That's probably going to happen in about 30 days. And then we could possibly have 2 batches of Bluebirds, batches of 3 being completed, but before December 31st, because we heard Jennifer Manor speak about how
6 a day.
Yeah, well, our US market application, which will be sometime in January, potentially early February. And then, as I've talked about before, we've got $175 million revenue prepayment coming in from Saudi Telecom, which will be before the end of this year. And then, yeah, we've got potentially a few more MNOs that are going to be signed up. And yeah, there's just like every day more news. Like FirstNet, there was an article this past week where it talked about how they are allocating funds to build out the, make sure that the first responder network is more robust, and satellite direct to cell connectivity is a key part of that. So I know we've all been saying this, but that commercial agreement with FirstNet is coming sooner or later, and FirstNet actually hinted at it. There was a video 2 weeks ago that talked about that showed a demonstration with a few city, state, and federal first responder organizations. And in that video, the FirstNet, whoever runs the account, said, stay tuned for more program updates. And so I don't know, like if people didn't see Scott Wisniewski before launch he added to his tweet with him with Santa riding the truck. He tweeted "Giddy up" with like six rockets, and so he must be pretty happy that there's probably more stuff coming. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, the fact that this was like, so like usually, at least over my trading career, the end of December is like, I don't know, unless there is a Santa rally. I don't really know if the Santa rally is a thing. It gets talked about every year, but I just remember like in my trading days, I just remember like the end of the year, I was like, okay, like play it easy, it's a little slow. But the fact that like ASD is hitting these milestones, like at the end of the year, like is there a better way to start 2026?
No, this is great. And as I've talked about in other spaces, you've got, it looks like inflation's tamed. You've got interest rates coming down, and then you've got the Trump administration saying that space and 6G superiority is a key focus of this administration. So you couldn't ask for a better environment for the company to launch its constellation and to execute. And so I think, I put this chart out of this fractal pattern of where AST could get near term, but I do think like we are on target to, meet and breach probably $200 a share sometime this year, perhaps earlier than the end of the year. But I don't often say prices out there.
Right. I was kind of surprised hearing that for a second.
But I do think 200 is in the card, so you can mark it.
Mark it, put it on the slate.
Yeah.
Red room. If you're listening anywhere, put it on a t-shirt.
Because I think once, as Scott has mentioned, this coming year, we've got most of the revenues will be government related, and as we've talked about it earlier, I think Golden Dome is going to be a big part of that, and the company has already said government's going to be a big contributor this year, and then next year, and they talked about hundreds of millions, and then next year, that's when commercial. Yeah, I think that's right. I think SpaceX, the IPO is going to bring a lot of interest to the sector and a lot of investment dollars. So yeah, 2026, you can ask for a better environment. And so I think the sky's the limit, or space is the limit.
Catse, yeah, Catse's back. Shout out Catse. I'd like to hear what you're excited for this coming year ahead. Most. I'm not sure. Not getting the volume.
I can't hear him either.
Yeah. They just wanted to. They just said like, can you reminisce and take us back to like how you were feeling then versus how you're feeling now in kind of a shorter manner.
The early days, there was a lot of uncertainty, right? Like before any satellites were launched, and then economically and efficiently test if the system worked, which they accomplished. But then back then, that we all had stars in our eyes and we're like, oh, we'll eventually get there. And I don't think, Kook and I have talked about this. Like we actually spoke with a space expert, not named Tim Farrar, and got their opinion. And they were like, yeah, this is certainly, it seems possible, but there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and funding is going to be an issue. And he kind of went through this laundry list, and I think we were still like anybody, optimists, right? And we we're like, okay, well, I think the opportunity is huge here, and the company will make it. Like we've got a great owner operator, and he's motivated, and what really did it for me was the strategic partners like AT&T, Vodafone, and others. And so, but back then there was a ton of risk, and I don't think anybody, including probably the company as well, I don't think anybody saw how difficult it would be. And in 2020 and 2021, funding was there, the markets were wide open. But then once 2022 hit, and there's criticisms, like people will say, oh, they didn't meet their SPAC projections. Well, when the market shut off for funding in 2022, like the company had to slow down, they slowed their development process, and any number of things, right? Like they had to conserve cash. And so they made it through the valley of death until the end of 2023, when they raised money with AT&T, Vodafone, and Google. And then they had to do that painful equity offering of $100 million to bridge themselves to get to that. That was January 2024. They had to do that painful $100 million equity offering. They sold, get this, 33 million shares at $3 and 50 cents a piece.
Oh my gosh!
But they had to
whoever bought those. Whew.
Yeah, but they had to do that, and then that tied them over to get Verizon, which took their sweet time. But Verizon, joined at the end of May, and the rest is history, right? Like the stock went from 2 to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12. It peaked at 39 that summer. And so that was a huge game changer. It was a big validation point where I think all the skeptics were like, okay, the fact that Verizon diligenced this, and they chose AST over Starlink, and they're choosing to work with AT&T, and they're not only just putting money in, they're contributing 850 megahertz spectrum. That was huge. And that's what really changed the narrative and the trajectory of the company. And so I think Michael Pollack, who's the head of defense business for AST, talks about how once they brought Verizon on board, like all the defense organizations started calling the company back, and the phone started ringing off the hook, because that was like a true point of validation, and that, hey, these guys are going to make it. Like it's not just a concept, but they're getting backed by AT&T and Verizon, and of course, like Google and Vodafone and others. And so fast forward to today, it is true. It's like everybody kind of looks back and says, well, at $2 or $3, that would have been awesome. Like I wish I'd bought more there. And it's like, well, no, they weren't easy buys back then, because the company, for all intents and purposes, was, the funding, they had more than 12 months of funding, but it was unclear. And they're supposed to put up this massive constellation. Like, where's that money going to come from? And there were a lot of uncertainties. And so I think, as we know in investing, buying shares here is actually in many ways a lot easier, right? Because the company has over $3 billion of cash, has all these partners, has demonstrated the technology, has 6 satellites now, 7, including Blue Walker 3, orbiting the Earth, and is about to embark on a multi-launch campaign with with Blue Origin and SpaceX and ISRO. We've overbooked our launches, and so launch capacity shouldn't be an issue. And so we should get to, at a minimum, 45 satellites, maybe up to 60 this coming year. And so, yeah, it's an exciting time. I guess the other thing I would say is back then in 2021, 2022, Catse was early on about this, the military use cases, and some of us had talked about the potential ideas, but military was not really a key driver of the business or an opportunity, at least back then. And when Catse would talk about it at length, everyone would kind of be like, okay, yeah, I guess that could make sense, but it was like so far fetched, given where we were financially and in terms of business development. It's like, okay, I'm not sure I can ascribe much value to it. And then fast forward to today, you've got commercial, you've got government, and then you've got military use case, which now it seems like abundantly clear or crystal clear, like this company's technology has a massive edge over competitors and then adversaries. And so, yeah, it's a much different time. There was so much uncertainty back then, and self-doubt, like just questioning, is this company going to make it? Am I crazy? Have I put too much faith into this? And then coming out on the other end, as all of you can understand, it's like
huge.
It's amazing that you stick with your conviction and come out on the other end, and it's validated, and
it's beautiful.
Yeah, you feel great for friends and family. You feel great for the company. Yeah, what a journey.
Catse, are you still with us? I see he's trying to speak. I don't think it's working. I was going to ask him a question about something you're speaking of. But so yeah, I kind of you reminiscing on the past. I was just thinking, like, so when this thing did kind of SPAC and start going crazy, I was super into it because I just saw like the need for this service. Like everyone wants service everywhere. Like I came at it from a very just like obvious standpoint where I was like, wow, this is something that eventually everyone's gonna need. I go camping a lot. I like to stay connected because I'll go camping. I want to watch something or listen to some music. You get stuck. So, and I remember selling been investing for a while, but I just remember selling shares of like Apple and Square back because I was just like selling like Fidelity Tech. 'Cause I was like, I just want ASTS because this is something that's going to be amazing. And then 2021, 2022 just kind of got stuck. And I remember very specifically it's like it came to a point in these years. Like I still had the account. It was like AST Stock Investors, and where I'd still post and share all the info. But I just remember kind of clocking out for a little bit, and then I got back from my honeymoon, and then like I checked the news, and the stock was ripping, and it was like I think we announced like a launch with SpaceX, probably Blue Walker 3, and the stock ripped from like $6 to 11. And this was like the highest my portfolio was in years, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then little would I know it would fall back. But still, it just goes to show you is like back then I was losing my mind saying my portfolio just reached the highest point in 2 years over a ride from $6 to $11. What, like if you look at the stock this morning, we saw like a 5% swing or a $5 swing within a minute. And it's really crazy to put that into perspective now when you see these swings and you think AST was stuck at $4 or $5 for years. And I think it's really us who did stick through and kind of seeing this mission unfold definitely deserve it. And everyone in the community who does like spread the knowledge, because through my investing years, like mostly is trading, but like you just see people pumping, not really pumping, but just talking about all these new stocks, this new AI stock, all these new stocks, but you never really seen a community come together like this and share some like true due diligence. And the fact that Catse, Anpan, and Kook were getting stuff right before like the company even talked about it, I can't even wrap my head around, but here we are. Catse, I'm not sure if your mic's still working. But if anyone want to come up and ask any questions, now's a good time to do so. I'm gonna just take a look at my list. I had a few more topics. Or like, hey, Amit, do you have a question?
I just wanted to share how thankful I am to the community. I started
Well, I
investing
appreciate it.
in ASTS when it was NPA, the SPAC.
Nice.
I did. I bought a lot of stock. I sold a lot of stock, made a bit of profit, made a bit of loss, lost all of the confidence, bought back the stock at $3, but bought
Wow.
very little stock, right? And I saw it rip till $12, $14, sold a lot of stock again, right? But Catse, Kook, and Anpanman, everyone, right? All the time they were trying to spread the knowledge, and I had the knowledge, but I didn't have that confidence, right? So I didn't make a lot of money then, but then it taught me a good lesson. So I invested a good deal of amount. I think a year or a year and a half on my investments this year itself, right? And it feels great. And even when Anpanman told us the lesson of taking profits when the stock reached 102, I still hold on to my nerves and did not sell. Did not sell when it went back to 50, and it feels great to still ride the wave, right? And I feel very confident that we are going to do great things. I just wanted to share my experience with everyone and wanted to thank everyone in the community. It's been worth it. So just wanted to thank everyone in the community.
Hey, thanks for sharing it. Congratulations. Yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster, and I think everybody who's invested in the company has experienced every emotion possible.
Right.
And so I think in your case, yeah. By the way, like I'm not telling people, I don't tell people to like sell your entire position, but what I've told said, and I continue to this day is you know if it's your whatever you invested or if you've multiplied your previous net worth, it does make sense at some point. Like set a goal and then set it, sell um, your net worth previously so that you've locked that in, or maybe you have a goal of 2 times your net worth. You sell that part and then you just ride the rest, right? And of course you have to set aside some for taxes. But I think yeah, I mean, I've heard so many stories from people who have secured their retirement or they've secured generational wealth, and it's just gratifying to hear because I think like people come out and thank me or Catse or Kook and of course Steve and Tut and all kinds of other people, but I think it's important to recognize like this is a community and it's distributed and everybody's kind of here to contribute in their own special way. And I don't think anybody would have made it this far. And there are times when Catse had concerns, or I had concerns, or Kook, and if it wasn't just for example, like Steve Larson was such a big and giving character, where there were times when I think as someone who shares due diligence, you do feel a high level of responsibility. And when the stock went to 2, you felt like, oh man, did I lead people the wrong way? I must have, I was wrong on this. And there were some pretty dark times back then. And I remember Steve Larson checking in with me, even calling me and just having a conversation and just making sure I was okay. And that's like beyond monetary things, beyond this stock. I mean, in some ways, like this stock is something of interest, and it's brought us together. And the side benefit is like this tremendous financial reward, which has been unbelievable. But the friendships and then just having this common interest, because I it's weird. It's like I probably have a more daily connection with people in the space mob than any friends in real life. And so um, that my family is safe because they're going to have connectivity no matter where they are. But yeah, it's cool to be invested in a company like that where you're changing the world, right? And you're bringing broadband connectivity to people who otherwise wouldn't have it. And so, wow, what a unique journey. So thanks, Amit, for sharing. I really appreciate it.
And thank you. I just had one question. In the presentation, right, they mentioned that they had an agreement with Singapore Defense Corporation, right? They were exploring. Was this mentioned anywhere in their investor relation talks before or presentation? This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Yeah, there was a PR. I think it was like over the summer. Maybe it was a tweet, but I can go back and find it. But yeah, that was they announced that. I think it wasn't a full press release, or maybe actually maybe it was, but yeah,
Okay.
it's in the I think it was. These smaller things kind of get lost in the cracks.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think like just hearing you both talk there, I think it really shows that this community is special in unique ways, that we all have this kind of like we've definitely built seeing these swings. We definitely have this like mental toughness that we've taught ourselves, and for a common purpose. Like my one friend who just kind of recently got to investing, he talks to me about it, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna try to sell when it's 80, reback, buy when it's 40, and I just tell him, I've watched this stock for so long, I don't really care where it swings. If the constellation is now like up and running, I'm not really gonna think about it like that, because why spend every day like staring at the stock price? Oh, I hope it's this. Oh, I want to make this. It's just good to look at the mission overall and teach yourself that mental kind of toughness. So when it does drop like that, you can say, if you do have money that's deployable, like if it drops from 80 to 48, it's like, okay, this is a good opportunity. I love this company. I spend all my waking hours thinking of this company. I can add more at a more reasonable price and then just wait it out, because we know where this mission's headed. So why kind of get in your own head about it? Why always be like worked up over it? I think it's good to relax and just be happy. Like hearing Amit's story there, it's like so many of these investors have tried to trade it, have seen it go all these different crazy ways. But people who have believed in the company and just have kind of held and have taught themselves are now kind of have taught themselves this mental toughness. And I think it's very impressive. So we do have a question here from Stock Meetups. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good man. Hey, congrats to Anpanman.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah.
Please
so
do.
About my story, yeah. So first thing is I'm super happy. One for ISRO, second is for ASTS. Especially because ISRO is the same state where I was born when I was. So ISRO and DRDO are the two important key institutions for Indian government. They started investing back in late 90s to become really good in terms of
I think you might cut
excited to
out.
see this.
There you go.
Yeah,
We're good.
I'm yeah. So I'm really excited for ISRO, especially so coming to the stage and doing the biggest launch for them. And I'm expecting a tweet from the Prime Minister as well, because he generally wants to do some kind of PR and marketing for ISRO, because
He actually
wants to
just tweeted.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying in another
Who
group
tweeted?
too. Modi,
Prime Minister
the Prime Minister Modi.
Oh, nice. Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. I was just texting to Anpanman in other group. Hey, we should tag Modi because he will generally tweet, and we should make that
Your dream
viral.
came true.
That's awesome.
He
Yeah.
also talked about
You manifested it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for my story, I mean, we all invested in a lot of SPACs during the SPAC boom back in 2020 and 21. And I've seen my portfolio go down by 80% in 22 and 23, but we held on to the nerve. I started investing in Rocket Lab and ASTS and few other good SPACs which are good founder led. And I used to chat a lot with the Kook and Anpanman. Hey, this is a good concept and etc. Like when are we going to see the big launches? It was really now breaking, but we all held on to the stocks. I was able to keep a lot of warrants, and sometimes warrants went to point to like 20 cents, 10 cents also, and stock went to $2. Still added more, to average down because I believed in Abel. When I looked at his overall history, how he solved the submarine communication problem with the emerging communication, his previous company, it was pretty impressive how he tried to solve the submarine communication problem because it's little hard problem to solve, and he doesn't talk too much, and he's very focused on it. And then when ISRO started being part of this whole, ASTS, it got very excited as well because for ISRO, this is a big launch. They're putting a lot of efforts. It's one of the very important temple. I'm super excited, seeing it today. And then couple of months ago, when I went to the FirstNet conference, just as a as an audience, which happened in Bellevue, Washington. I was even more excited because these people were having a lot of problems. The FirstNet, and when I was explaining about them to ASTS and etc.